All right, so I believe we are now recording. This is the February, what are we, 16th Flood and Erosion Control Board meeting. And we are starting our meeting at 7 o'clock. This is Becky Bunnell, Chair, speaking. And if we could go around and everyone could say who is here.
I'm Dick Mahusky and I'm the Secretary.
Don Lamberti, Vice Chairman.
Paul Andino, member.
And
Brian. Oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say you because I didn't see you in your,
Oh, yeah.
in your camera.
Sorry, I was getting my pen. Prue O'Brien, recording secretary.
All right, so we are now starting the meeting with item 1 on call. And we actually have 2 minutes to approve, but let's start with the January 19th draft minutes. So if everyone could just take a quick look at those and let us know if there are any edits that you would like to propose.
Madam Chairwoman, I have some comments.
Okay. Go for it, Dick.
Page one
There you
of the
go.
minutes. The topical heading is Riverside Drive. It is 90% design. John Richer, his last name is spelled R-I-C-H-E-R.
Oh, ER, okay. Oh, is it, there's no D?
No, it's
Okay.
Richer. R-I-C-H-E-R.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
There was, I would suggest to insert the next sentence. There was a delay regarding bypass pump to be sure it would work during all flow events. I would suggest inserting the word temporary after regarding, because that's a temporary pump. It's not part of the ultimate arrangement. So just to
Okay.
clarify that, insert the word temporary after.
Okay. And bypass should bypass be one word?
Bypass should be hyphenated,
Okay,
I believe.
okay,
The end of the next line will need to be sure, S-U-R-E. Just add an E to them.
wait, where is that? I'm sorry.
The next line. The end of the next
Okay.
line. It's to be sure, but you forgot the E, or your fingers were flying too
Oh,
fast.
to be sure, okay. All right, sorry.
Rooster River, Bill Hurley was prioritizing the detention basin, blah, blah, blah. They are acquiring to put a detention basin on Algonquin Road. I'm not sure what that means. Is the town
Oh.
planning to acquire some property there?
Well, I actually was listening. I think I was listening to this when I wrote it. So, because I had, sometimes when I'm taking the minutes and I have questions and I write in parentheses, listen. So then I go back to the recording. So I'm not sure. Do you want me to do you want me to take that out?
I don't know what it means. And as I was looking at this a few days ago, I meant to call Bill Hurley and get some clarification on that, and I did not do that. So I would just strike that whole
Take it
sentence,
out.
'cause I
Okay,
don't think it's all that necessary. If anybody
okay.
different opinion. Okay. So Fairfield Beach Road survey still going on. The Pine Creek Tide Gate Bridge has to stay there. I would, for clarity, I would say the Pine Creek Tide Gate, I would insert historical, quote, railroad, unquote, bridge.
Okay.
And that, I mean, that's a big stopping blockade on that whole project. The State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, Brian Carey was in contact with them. It's like the guy said, nope, he just folded his arms and nope, you got to take that out if you want to do work there and then put it back. It has to stay there.
Huh.
That just needs more conversation with them because it's a loot. To my mind, it's a ludicrous posture. But so that needs to be resolved.
Okay.
They can do the work and then put it back. Salt Meadow tide gates. These gates are at Riverside Drive and South Benson Marina. I would just take that out of there
Okay,
because the Salt Meadow tide gates are over near the ball fields. If you go a little farther up the marsh, there's that little development, Salt Meadow.
oh, yes.
I think they're called. That's where the tide gate is. It's not over on Riverside Drive.
Okay,
So, I mean, we also talked about tide gates at Riverside Drive. So I don't know. Salt Meadow tide gates. I don't know how.
well, then I have at the end of Old Dam Road, that's not where they are?
No, there's an entry at the end of Old Dam Road. There's like a natural spot between the end of South Pine Creek Road Drive, South Pine
Okay.
Creek Drive, and the bitter end of Old Dam Road. And there's a flap gate. It's not a flat. It's FLAP. So there's a flap gate.
Oh, a flap gate. I'm sorry.
Right. And that needs to be replaced. It kind of conservation needs to get involved there because we should be reclaiming some of that marshland.
You can't open that yet.
I don't know if I would just say we discussed various tide gates we discussed various tide gate conditions. Replacement of some appear in the capital plan.
Okay, so we
So
discussed,
from Salt Meadow, starting at Salt Meadow tide gates, starting there and ending after items. I would strike all of that and just say various tide gates were discussed, some of which various tide gates or various tide gate conditions were discussed.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just leave it at various tide gates were discussed and just don't even say anything other than.
And then some of which will need replacement?
Becky's right. Just
Okay,
stop
okay,
it there. So after Salt Meadow to the end, various tide gate conditions were discussed, period.
okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. There were 2 water main breaches on Fairfield Beach Road. They are looking to put in new water main. Peter Woodswell said the line looked new in front of his house. I was trying to recall that conversation and I don't, because I thought like his feeder was a new feeder, but it tapped into the old line. Does anybody remember that?
Oh,
I thought it was did they dig something in front of his house?
Don't recall. I wish you were on. I don't recall.
Because I remember him saying that it looked new in front of his house.
That's what he said, yes.
So, but maybe it doesn't have to be in the minutes.
I don't know. Just leave it. Just leave it as it is. Except I would replace the word they, where it says they are looking to put in a new water line. I would say Aquarian,
Okay,
just to identify who that they is, because they're the people that do the work.
okay. So Aquarian is looking to put in a new water main. Okay,
And then my last comment is the next sentence there. There is a stormwater pump station at Jenny's Beach that is being designed. I would strike there is and just capitalize A.
a storm
So it reads a stormwater pump station at Jennings Beach.
is being
would-
designed.
I would strike that. No, I
Oh,
would strike the word that.
right,
So
I took that out.
A
Mhm.
stormwater pump station at Jennings Beach is being designed, period.
Okay. Mhm.
Then the detailed design will 1.2 million. It's not, the whole thing is much more
Yeah,
expensive.
that's what you're supposed to do.
So I
I'm
wanna
just, for the minutes and for the record, Peter Wiswell is just joining the call. Anyway,
And
sorry.
my apologies for the delay.
So I would just say the detailed design will cost 1.2 million and put a dollar sign.
The detailed design and strike it will cost $ 1.2 million. Okay,
Right. That's all I have.
okay.
Does
Thank
anyone
you,
else have
Dick.
any comments on the minutes?
No,
Would anyone like a motion to approve them with the suggestions that Dick made?
okay, motion to approve.
Do I have
I
a
second the
second?
motion. Dick seconds the motion.
Can I have a show of hands, all that approve the minutes as amended?
All right,
That was everyone, hands were raised.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Prue. We're going to move on to the minutes of the special called meeting of January, what was it, 28th, Dick?
It was the 28th, yes.
yes.
I'm gonna, is it okay? I'm gonna log off now.
Yep.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so these minutes, draft minutes of, I sent them around. I presume everybody got them. I just tried to capture the gist of our conversation that Becky and I had with the folks up at Circa. Becky, you can paraphrase these, or if you want to go over and read them. I mean,
I read them and was fine with them. So, I
Okay.
mean, because I was there.
I wrote them and I'm fine with them and no one else is there, so I guess they're perfect.
So I have no comments. Does anyone else have any comments on them?
I have one question. Somewhere it says that Mrs. Onat was doing some modeling on the zone of shared risk. And she said we should send her particular parameters. What is that? What does she want us to send her to do some modeling?
That's unclear. That's unclear in my mind. It was, I don't know.
I got the sense that she wants us to send her what types of modeling we would like them to do. Circa is willing to do some modeling for free for us,
Right,
some basic modeling. It's unclear if some of the more rigorous modeling is available for free.
she'd
They sort
like
of
us to
applied it.
specify a type of modeling or?
Yeah, I think she wants us to get back with a series of specific modeling that we would propose.
My sense was that she has these canned models and she puts in a couple parameters and then it spits out how the water is going to rise, how much erosion is going to be there or something like that. After we talked about that at the meeting, not to belabor the point and get educated on it, my sense was that in order to get some kind of modeling to show what we're interested in, it needs another private conversation with Yaprak and whoever's in us.
Yeah, I think that's our action, is to set up a follow-up call with her.
I agree.
Okay,
So any other comments on the minutes of January 28th?
Then I
Okay,
make a motion. I make a
Go ahead.
motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
I second.
okay,
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 All have raised their hands and said aye. So the minutes are approved. All right, let's move on to item 2 on call, which is a review of the Flood and Erosion Control Board Master Plan. So I think we need, I want to give a couple updates here, and then I'll turn it over to anyone else who has updates. We finally got some costing from Army Corps of Engineers. Yay! I have not spent a lot of time with them yet. I'd like to dig into them, but we had asked for that preliminary costing, as you know, way back when they had finished our section of the project. And I don't know if he gave us everything that I asked for. I was very specific with what I wanted, and it looked like he gave me a lot of it. I'm not sure we got all of it.
Yeah.
But what that will allow us to do is now go back and look at our section by section, the whole, each section of the plan, and at least be able to put in a Army Corps costing for each of those sections.
May I ask
So I
a
think-
dumb, may I ask a dumb question? What's an eye wall versus a T-wall?
The
I
eye
think
wall, the eye wall is just vertical sheets driven into the ground. The T-wall has a flat plane foundation just below the ground level. So the T-wall is like an upside down T.
Okay,
And the eye wall is just a bunch of vertical sheets going into the ground.
they just
Now,
drive
they
them down
can
in
be
the
cased
ground.
in concrete. They can be cased in concrete and whatnot. I forget if I included them. I sent
They
around a
had some
composite.
sketches of those two that they sent us.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't. I may have. Wait a minute. Give me one moment.
Anyway, what I think is exciting about this is that I think our action coming out of this is to absorb these costings, which I think Dick said he sent around to everybody.
yeah,
And then to me, the action is to do a rigorous prioritization based upon these costings of what we think we should push forward with first, second, and third, like in tiers. One of my concerns with the Army Corps recommended plan is there were a lot of areas where we needed to get easements and go through people's yards. And I just feel like the ability of us to sell that to residents is going to be terrible. Whereas, the ability to sell possibly a dune along the beach, particularly if we could put a bike path on top or something like that, I think we could actually, make and then have the eye wall or T-wall go sort of behind, the houses on Reef Road that are on the marsh side of Reef Road.
Yeah.
So we could have the wall go up along there, which is town property. So I think it'd be much easier to sell that plan, even though it's a little more expensive. I think we need to weigh very carefully cost considerations versus ability to actually get residents behind it.
The other thing about the fortified dune, I'm going to call it, they have that in their option 5. And in the composite I put together, I did not put all of the sheets that they sent us. So each of those sheets that I included in that composite does have other backup sheets behind it, which gives more detail. So the sheets I included are the roll-up sheets, if you will. But I think it was option 5, which has beach nourishment in it. The original on the detail sheet, the original cost of the beach nourishment was like $147 million. And when you take that and they put in the maintenance, and I believe it was over 20 years, it might be 30 years. When they put in the maintenance, because you have to replenish that nourishment every few years, and they put in the escalation factors, that $147 million initial cost got up to a life cycle cost of like $400 million. So it's like this
Wow.
beach nourishment. And we had heard that, I had heard that before when people were talking about beach nourishment. If you want to build up the sand so the sand keeps the floodwaters out of your area, you have to keep putting that sand back year after year after year. And it gets really expensive. And the Army Corps doesn't like to do it for that reason anymore.
But Dick, why is it that Jennings doesn't need to be beach nourished?
What was that, Becky?
So the Jennings Dune, we don't do any beach nourishment.
because it's way above the tide line. I mean, it doesn't get any erosion. It just gets wave action on its face during a big storm. But there is a little bit of run-up room there. There's not a whole lot. I mean, like 300, 400 yards of run-up room would be really nice to dissipate the energy. But it really doesn't, the foot of that dune really doesn't get attacked that much. Because it's.
But I mean, I'm just wondering whether we could create a similar run-up scenario for, I mean, we're really talking about, we already had talked about trying to do a fortified dune in front of Penfield. We've already got kind of a quasi fortified dune in front of Jackie Durrell, which is already higher. So we're really talking about it in front of, I guess, the student area at Lantern Point, really that section of the beach.
Yeah, well, as you go westward from the Jackie Durrell Pavilion, there's that low concrete retaining wall that is an historical wall. Of that wall is at 8.5 feet.
Yeah, so we'd need to, that was where we would need to go higher. And maybe the dune doesn't go, maybe we don't do the dune any further than that. And maybe we try to do high walls or T-walls. I just felt like the scenario that they had as their alternative 3 was very complicated and convoluted. And to me, it implies that we're taking too much of people's land, I think, although I could be wrong.
Was 3 was the wall going inland, a little inland?
Oh, yeah, it was meandering through people's neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think, so that's,
The other thing, just to comment, the other thing about dunes, and this comes from Dave Murphy, and somewhere recently I saw reference to the fortified dune in Milford. That was in one of the plans, that at Milford, they're going to build this fortified dune, and they made a request, a permit. They submitted a permit application to do that to Deep, and Deep said, no, you may not do that. That is a fortified dune. That is a flood and erosion control structure. You may not do it.
well, my understanding from Deep and talking to a couple people is that so long as you show them alternate scenarios you've looked at and the feasibility of those alternate scenarios there, and you show that this is the best option, and you show that you've looked at many alternates,
Okay, I see.
there may be some openness. And the other thing I've been coached over and over again, everyone says this, is if you bring Deep in early and have them work with you on these, they tend to be more open than if you present something at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that's the first update on the Flood and Erosion Control Board Master Plan. The second update is that Dick and I had a brief conversation with GZA because they did a very thorough plan for the Stratford. And we wanted to understand, they had, as you may recall, they had actually proposed, I think, a $37,000 plan for us back in 2019. We'd put 2 sort of mini RFPs out to GZA, and I can't remember, OBG, I guess was the other one. What was the
Yes.
second firm?
Yes, OBG.
And theirs had come back in at 37,000. And because they did their Stratford, the Stratford plan, they know our area very, very well. And so I gave them a quick call just to really understand what would they charge us to do a similar plan to the plan of Stratford using Army Corps plan and our plan, basically our Flood and Erosion Control Board plan as kind of the starting point. But I want them to evaluate each section and help us prioritize. And what would they charge us to do that, on the assumption that Circa could do some, if not all, of the modeling. So they are going to talk to Circa and understand what modeling Circa is willing to do for free and come back to us with an alternate scenario that hopefully could be a little cheaper, maybe, to get a updated master plan where Circa does some of the modeling. They help us evaluate the Army Corps scenarios, and maybe that gives us kind of a, I mean, I'm still not sure how we would pay for that, but at least we would get a price for what they would charge us to do that. So we're kind of waiting to see what they come back with.
And
in
he
their-
was,
in their
and he
updated
was
plans.
sort of talking about $40,000, $30,000, but then in his email, he said, oh, just by the way, something on the order of what we did for Stratford would be more like $100,000.
Yeah, but I don't think we would need the whole Stratford, because if Circa's doing some of the modeling and we've already got Army Corps as a start point, I think we need to understand what would they charge, no, with those as these. Stratford had nothing. They had to do everything from the beginning.
Mhm.
So anyway, we'll see what they come back with.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Other than packaging that report very nicely with charts and graphs and red ribbons, the substance of those reports is really not much more than we had in our 2015 plans.
I actually think it was, because they did wave fetch modeling. We didn't do any of that.
Oh, no.
They did a lot of modeling in those plans, in the
Okay.
Stratford plan.
Okay. Then
And that's what sort of allows you to validate some of the, prioritization. Because the other thing we were going to do is try to see if they could model rebuilding Penfield Reef. What would happen if we built that out? What would happen if we put T's on the end of the groins? If you could model those, I believe, in these modeling scenarios. And that's kind of really what I'm mostly interested in is what would be some options. And I don't know if rebuilding Penfield Reef out would actually accrete sand so that we could have a Jennings-like dune in front of, that whole section of beach from Rickards down to Penfield Dune. I have no idea if that would accrete sand, but wouldn't that be interesting to find out if that could do that?
yes.
So anyway, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and it may end up costing more than we can afford, but let's see what they come back with. Just to keep everyone in the loop, that right now they're going to be coming back with some sort of proposal, some sort of hybrid proposal here. I don't have anything else on the Flood and Erosion Control Board Master Plan. Dick, do you have any other updates?
I was so the Board of Selectmen had a meeting on the 8th, I guess was postponed from the 1st because of snow. So they had a meeting and talked about the capital plan. This capital plan was what came out of the December 9th capital planning workshop. Flood and erosion control related projects, I think, fared pretty well. We have a number of them that are still on there. The Board of Selectmen did not approve the capital plan to then go on to Board of Finance because they were waiting for resolution of one item. And the way the meeting timing went, it was not necessary for them to approve it until their next meeting or something. So it still has not gone on to Board of Finance, but the conversation, as I listened to it, they were all in favor of it as presented. And Tom Flynn was involved in that, and the new finance director was involved in that. And the numbers kept us under our 8% target to limit 8% of the operating budget should be the maximum of your bond service each year. So that number backs into a $30 million bonding limit for each year. And these projects remained below that. One of the things that I want, and so then I'm thinking about, okay, so our new revised master plan that we want to go before Board of Selectmen with and RTM and whoever, just to show them that, hey, climate change is here, something's going to happen. We need to figure out how we get a resiliency fund for our town. And we need to keep these projects in front of our faces. The project list was kind of validated by the Army Corps of Engineers look-see at what our town needs to keep the 2,000 residences from flooding out and getting damaged. So a listing of the capital projects that are associated with flood and erosion control would be part of that. So one of the things I'm going to do is take a subset of the capital plan as it exists today and show those projects that are on there as far as flood and erosion control board are concerned. And one of them in the out years, the 2023, 2025, there's a $14 million item in there for the Penfield, no, I'm sorry, Jennings Beach pumping station. And then 2 years later, there's $19 million for the Jennings Beach pumping station. I believe the 14 million is just to upgrade the sewers, so we'll have a way to convey the storm waters to the pump station. And then the $19 million is that, okay, now we've got the sewers, now let's build a pump station to lift those flood waters up above the high tide level. So we've got a number of projects in there that seem to fit in the bonding capability of the town. So.
Good.
That's just comment.
Anything else on item 2? Because if not, let's go to the item 3 on call, which is updating the Flood and Erosion Control Board 2015 plan with all of the new information we've gotten, and hopefully we might get some modeling from Circa as part of that. So I don't think we have a planned date, but I do think we need to target to get this done sort of mid this year, mid 2021, and start to engage our town, our new town select body, if you will, because I think this group of people really has not had any exposure to the 2015 plan, and we need to get them bought into it along with the resilience plan and everything else. So I think we need to start engaging them sooner rather than later. Dick, I know you were going to start a draft. I was going to start sort of a backgrounder draft.
Yeah, and I have not done that.
That's okay. We just need to kind of keep it on our agenda.
Yeah.
The other thing that I had made a comment about was that I read through the town strategic plan, and I was a little disappointed at the what I would call lack of mention. And it wasn't complete lack. I mean, it was in there a little bit, but there was really no strategic plan thinking about the fact that, 3,000 plus of our houses, many of our historical districts are at risk, in the, 50 years from now scenario of being inundated with water. That wasn't even brought up in really to any degree in the strat plan. No provisions were made. And I just felt like that is a miss. So right now it's still a draft. And I do think we need to send a letter to the strat plan committee and just say that we feel that that we need to dial that up in the wording in the strat plan, that this is something that needs to have a well thought through plan over the next 5 to 10 years. And maybe we say, over the next 5 years, the town will need to really think through how we're going to look at climate change and sea level rise, and look at a plan that could cost upward of $500 million.
Yeah,
And
Becky, I read through it and came to the exact same conclusion, to the point that I got to the end and I thought, gee, maybe they didn't send me the whole thing. It was amazing how they completely missed that point. And it's not just us down on the peninsula, it's really the whole floodplain.
Oh yeah, it's 3,000 houses. It's the whole historic district. It's 5 churches. It's 3 schools. It's not just a few rich people's houses. This is a core part of our town, and they didn't even address it in their strategic plan.
Yeah. And they use the word resiliency in about 4, maybe 5 places, like as a topical heading for some commentary. But I'm at a loss as to what they think resiliency is. I think they think resiliency is that we stop using plastic bags from the supermarket, and that's going to make us more resilient. We flood and erosion. I have this document left over here, 2-page document on June 11th, 2018. We went and I think it was Rick and myself, we went and we sat with those folks and we gave them this list of things that they should consider. And I'll send this around for us just so we all have a renewed awareness of it. But this is the kind of thing that I think our letter to them needs to reiterate. Hey guys, you know, we gave you this list with 12 bullet points, and I don't know, maybe there's 15 objectives here, and you just ignored them. What do you think resiliency means? Resiliency means we have to take steps to protect the 3,000 residential properties in our floodplain. So let's get some funding and, you know, put in a resiliency fund of some sort when you're talking about funding the town operations. So yeah, we need to do that, because I just read that thing. I came away just cold and confused by the whole thing.
All right, so who wants to take the lead on drafting a letter for this group to review?
I will.
All right, Dick. Let's try to get that, since it is still a draft. I'm nervous that they're going to publish it as a final strat plan.
No, I need to get that circulated to all you guys before the next meeting.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of urgency in this one.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Moving on to item 4 on, or anything else on this before we move off of this?
No.
Moving on to item 4 on call. I think we already had a conversation quickly about what Circa was willing to do. They're willing to do some minor level modeling for us. And so it was a, Don, I don't know, it was a good conversation with Jim O'Donnell, and he brought, there was a whole group of people on the phone, and it was actually a positive, I thought, positive conversation. So the action coming out of it, however, is a little unclear. I need to circle back with John Trzynski and understand if they owe us anything or if we owe them something, because it could be that we owe them the specifics of the modeling we want to.
Yeah, I agree. I came away unclear too. I mean, it was a very good conversation. I enjoyed the conversation. I picked up that and the other thing, but to write down what I picked up, I don't know.
Okay, so I'll go back and relook at the emails and just ask what and just clarify what the next steps are. So that's pretty much it for the active old business. Is there any other old or new business that anyone would like to bring up?
I would like to chat about stormwater utility very briefly. That was brought up in our conversation with Circa, actually, that a town establishes the storm water system, which is the storm sewer system, if you will, and pump stations, if you will, to pump that against into a body of water that might be higher than your depressed floodplain. Various locations have that. That would be one mechanism for us to fund our town resiliency fund. In the conversation with Circa, it came about that in order for any town in Connecticut to establish a stormwater utility and charge fees to the residents for that, it has to have enabling legislation by the legislature. So that really needs legislation. There was a webinar thing I went to about stormwater utility, and I have to look back to see if I sent anything around, but there's a link to the PowerPoint presentation or the slide presentations on there, and I will send that around. But that was interesting. It's a viable mechanism to get money and put it in a lockbox, so it only goes to help get rid of stormwater.
And we could use that for things like the pumping station drainage, for example.
Or even other pumping stations, because, you know, looking at the Army Corps of Engineers report, I realized they had a couple pump stations in there. And it's like, think about Riverside Drive. We're going to redo the tide gates at Riverside Drive at the end of Turney Creek. Okay. So what if we get a storm, and it's a hurricane storm like Storm Sandy, where the next low tide was higher than a normal high tide during Storm Sandy. So what if we got a Storm Sandy with a whole lot of rain, where all this rainwater is now coming down Turney Creek and the tide gates are closed because it's still high tide on the Long Island Sound side of the tide gates, and the rainwater is coming down Turney Creek. All those people whose backyards back up to Turney Creek and their basements are only 2 feet higher than Turney Creek, they're going to have a lot of flooding. So anywhere where we put an impediment to the Long Island Sound water coming in, we really need to consider a pumping station so that if you have a concurrent rain event, you have a way to get that rainwater out of there. And that wasn't really apparent to my mind before I looked at the Army Corps report. So again, stormwater used for building a pump station to pump out the stormwater.
Yeah, exactly.
Dick, do you have any idea how often you would need the pump station? How often would that occur?
Not very. I wouldn't think very.
Only on the really high tide scenario that you described.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Any other old or new business?
I have a question that perhaps Dick can enlighten me on. I was made aware of a proposed land development project in Southport. And the residents who are opposed to it noted that the area that they would like to develop floods quite badly anytime there's anything more than very modest rain. I noted that sounds like wetlands. And so I contacted planning and zoning, and they said, nope, no indication it's wetlands. You need to talk to conservation. And I have not spoken to conservation, but my question to all of you is, certainly there are areas in town that get wet that are not designated as wetlands, but are any of you able to provide any insight into whether having a piece of land designated as wetlands is the answer to avoid development, or is there some other mechanism? And this just came to mind a moment ago when Dick mentioned you've got the rain coming down the creek, the gates closed because it's high tide, and everybody's yards get flooded. The situation I'm looking at, there's not a tidal situation, but everybody's yard gets flooded. What is the mechanism to have that abated, designated as a special area? Is it conservation you talk to? Is it flood and erosion you talk to?
No, it's not flood and erosion. I would
Conservation.
encourage Mr. Lamberti to share the history of Black Rock Church when they wanted to build a structure and there was a vernal pool.
Yes, there was.
This vernal pool just put the kibosh on that whole nice project that they wanted to do. Because I remember that, and I remember thinking to myself, oh man, this is bad. This is bad. One little salamander every other April, and they hold up the whole project.
They had to wait until it was sometime in March or April. They had to hire a conservationist to go out there at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning with spy glasses to see if they could find a spotted owl or some kind of little fish or something up in there. Check everything out.
So it was.
And they being the neighbors who were opposed to you.
Yeah, the neighbors, yes.
Right? Yeah.
So the neighbors objected ostensibly on the basis of its being wet and having endangered species.
Yes.
Well, there might be endangered species. You have to prove there are none. You have to send someone out there with spyglasses at 3 a.m. to check it out.
But
So you have to affirmatively prove, if you wanted to develop, you have to affirmatively prove they are not there.
Yes, absolutely.
right.
And small amphibians are amongst the most endangered species in Connecticut.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question directly, Peter, I think the next conversation should be with the Conservation Office, because the Conservation Commission, they have meetings as the Conservation Commission, and then they have other meetings acting as the Inland Wetlands Commission. So anytime you want to build something in town, you have to go and get the Conservation Office to say, yes, this is okay from an inland wetlands perspective. And
Right.
they have all
Okay.
those things.
Yeah. Peter, I
And
might
then-
add, you have to, if you could delay all the action until May or June after the spring tides, then you'd have to wait for another year before they could send the man out there at 3 a.m. to check it out. You could delay it for over a year.
Oh, jeez.
The other thing that comes to mind, I remember there was some development plan, and this was up off of North Benson Road, up near the university. So it was an area where, it's high, it's up on the hill, but yet the contours had drainage, natural drainage going down the hillside. And where this guy wanted to subdivide the property and build 2 houses, it's like, no, that's going to just back up the water onto my property. You can't do that. And like Laura Pooley said, yep, that's right. The contours and everything, that water's going to come down there with the 10-year storm and it'll flood out this guy's basement. So they said, well, you either have to put in some drainage provisions that will accommodate that, or you can't build it. So maybe there's something in this development location where they will have to put in some drainage to get those accumulated waters to go somewhere else.
Good point.
Well-
Dick and Don, is conservation the municipal authority relative to, let's call it, endangered species as well?
Yes,
I would think so. But
yes.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
yeah,
I appreciate the input. I know this isn't
yeah.
directly.
Peter, I might say down here in Pine Creek, when you want to build something, you have to get a surveyor to go in and get a contour map before you touch anything. You can't even start without that. Then after the construction is done, you have to get a contour map to prove you restored it to where it was.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you very much. Undoubtedly, I'll pester you again another time.
No
But-
problem.
Great start. Thank you.
I just want to mention the wastewater treatment plant is still chugging along. They're taking baby steps because it is winter time. But they're doing what they're doing. The second pumping station over near the new generator was supposed to be put in last Friday. I didn't go by there. I don't know if it's been put in or not, but they're moving along. It's too early to be late, so that should keep going.
Becky, where are we now relative to the Pine Creek dredging proposal? I've been reading the various emails that have been circulated, but it seems to have slowed down a bit.
My understanding is that Alexis, the consultant, got a meeting with Rick Rauer and I assume
believe it was-
Antonio with Brenda. And it was presented to Brenda and I believe Brenda and the other selectmen, but it might have been just Brenda. And the request very specifically was to be able to use the prior permit, sort of basically update and amend the prior permit and refile that permit. And my understanding is that it was left in Bill and Laura's hands to review that and confirm whether that is feasible. Dick, I don't know if you have anything.
Well, it was my scuttlebutt is the meeting was like a Zoom presentation that Alexandra did. The participants were Alexandra, Rick Grauer, Brenda Kupchak, Tom Bremer, Bill Hurley, I think. So the way they left it was that Alexa could go and put together the permit application for a certificate of permission to do some dredging there. It would be patterned after the previous certificate of permission, which resulted in dredging the entry area of the creek after Sandy. And that when that permit application was done, Alexandra would go through Bill Hurley to see what Bill Hurley's comments, agreement was, and then they would go from there. So the town would be amenable to the group going forward and paying on their own for the new certificate of permission, with the proviso that Bill Hurley give his stamp of approval to whatever they are submitting. And the town made no commitment for any kind of funding. And I believe that Brenda may have commented that in this current financial circumstances, I would be surprised if this would get any funding from the town.
So,
I know.
Dick, my two takeaways are: number one, as it now stands, the residents would pay 100%. And number two, which I'm more concerned about, it would be limited to approximately the entrance area only. And there's no notion that it would go well up into the creek beyond where their residence is.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
when you say go up into the creek beyond where residences are, I'm not sure what you mean. Like, for instance, Rick Grauer has a dock behind his garage there at whatever his number is, 1,500, I don't know. And the dredging would not go that far.
It won't even get that far.
Okay.
It won't get
Yeah.
up to you, Peter. It won't even, Paul, I don't think it'll even get to you. I doubt it'll even get to me.
Okay. And my concern is, I think I mentioned once before, is if those with docks now would like it dredged, I can certainly see the argument. Going beyond those docks up to where there are no docks, there are no bulkheads, it's just marsh, does not make sense.
Oh,
No one's proposing that.
Okay. And that was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure that was still where it stood.
Yeah, no, that's definitely where it
think
stood.
one
And
of
I
the
think the real question is whether we'll even get up to everyone's docks, because I think most of the docks won't even get dredged up to it. It'll only be, it's going to be probably about the same area that was dredged last time, is my guess.
Okay.
Jim, isn't
you.
one of the biggest problems that when you get outside of the creek into Long Island Sound itself, isn't that where big problem is? It's half a foot or 1 foot deep out there. Don't you have to dredge in actually Long Island Sound too?
It looked like from the plan, that's what they did. They dredged out into the mouth of where Pine Creek exits
Okay.
in order to keep that channel.
Yeah.
But that silts over so quickly that
I know.
without any kind of breakwater
You
or
can't
something,
stop
I
it.
mean, it's gonna silt right back in again.
They really need to, as been discussed many times, put some sort of extended hard structure out there.
Oh, Peter, you blaspheme.
Uh-oh.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no,
But then what we have
that's
to,
exactly right.
what needs to be put to the town is that sand will accrete by that hard structure, and they will have additional land to tax.
There you go.
Good point. There
A
you go.
benefit to the town.
But I don't think Deep's gonna buy into that. No, thank you. I was just curious on that.
All right, any other older new business?
No,
All right, with that, it is 7:55. And
I make
I-
a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
do we have a second?
okay.
All
Second,
right, all in favor?
all right.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you for all your
Appreciate it.
hard work.
Thank you. Very good.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.